Please stand. Everyone stand, please. Thank you very much. We will now proceed with the playing of the national anthems, O Canada and the Métis Ballad.
Watch our nation rise again. Never more forgotten people. We're the true Canadians. western plain, as the white man journeyed westward to the land of the Indian. A new race was created, a new nation rose up strong. Hardship as its destiny, and its curse to not belong. We are proud to be Métis, watch our nation rise again. Never more forgotten people, we're the true Canadian. For this newest generation and the future ones to come, with the past to motivate us, it will help to keep us strong. As we build the Métis nation, as we watch it rise again, our past losses motivation to inspire our future gain. We are proud to be Métis, watch our nation rise again. Never more forgotten people, we're the true Canadian. We are proud to be Métis, watch our nation rise again. Never more forgotten people, we're the true Canadian.
I'd now like to call on Senators Betty Hugendorn and Philip Ledoux to provide a land acknowledgement and an opening prayer.
Can you hear me? First of all, I want to express my gratitude to all the land-based First Nations people for allowing us to work and play in their territory. As I am gratefully acknowledge and respect the wisdom, sacrifice, and stewardship, past, present, and future, on whose beautiful, unceded territory of the Ktunaxa and the Shrek Nations that I reside on. I also honor the rich contributions that they all contribute and the many Indigenous families who have chosen our area as home. Creator, we're all standing to honor our ancestors. We give thanks to our Creator for its generous spirit. Bless this room and this meeting. I'm honored to be here. As we are gathered here today as elders and leaders of our nation and our communities, let us celebrate our land and water, the air we breathe, and our Mother Earth. Coming together, keeping together, and working together is a great sacrifice for our nation, for our youth. And what a great spirit you all have. Thank you for working for our people and our youths. Bless our families and for those in need of support as they struggle with illness of mind, body, and spirit, that we would find the grace to reach out to them and comfort and caring compassion. I humbly asked our patient spirit, our Creator, to guide us and the courage to support us as we all work together with spirit and with your guidance, a message of peace and love and forgiveness. Today, and always, we stand. Kaya Shanushan Pidamin, Kichiti Moyang and Li Michif Wiyang, proud to be Métis. Miigwech. Thank you.
Thank you for those great words, Betty. And at this time, I'm going to say basically the same words that she was using, but I'm going to be speaking in the Cree language. So I ask each one of you, again, always remember to reflect in your own language the best way you know how. Say thank you today for what's happening here, for what we're going to do, the work that's going to take place for our children. And I ask each one of you to take a little moment to reflect on our ancestors that worked so hard to where we're at today. Many, many years of our ancestors had worked to make happen what's happening here. So I want to thank you all for listening to me at this time, but just bear with me with the language that I'm going to be speaking. Ano tawi, asami rumuta kahkiao, kapmasa kami kapoya. Ak mundutamatnan, tapin sawi istaman, umuta kapmita kamiksia. Sawimnan, koyask utinigan, tapmisi sigia, koyask utinigan, dawasam sinanak, kigway miwasnik, umuta wistaw tapmutnako, umuta kawitakamga. Ano tawi, kinaskumten, mstahanos kagisigak. Igwa, namusom, kista kinaskumten, nohum, kista kinaskumt no umuta piwichiwya, ksnuhtainan, koyask utinigan, Nipmatsahunnan tapmuasiak. Nuhtawi. Kinaskumten asaminanos kagisigak. Thank you. Miigwech. Morsi. Kinaskumt now. Thank you. Oh. I just want to acknowledge what just took place here with all the witnesses that's here. This is some of our protocols as Métis people coming from the Aboriginal side of us, is that we always offer something before we take. And that's what this gentleman just did here. Gave us tobacco. We use tobacco for that, to give thanks before we take something. So I want to thank John here for doing that, and the witnesses that are here to be able to see and pass that on to their children so they have respect for the cultures that we come from. Thank you.
Thank you, Senators Hugendorn and Gladue, for those great opening words. You may be seated. We are going to proceed with some video greetings from some dignitaries who could not join us today, but sent some well wishes. So we'll have some video greetings up on the screen momentarily.
Hello, Premier David Eby here. I'm speaking to you from the territory of the Lekwungen people, the Songhees and Esquimalt nations. I wish I could be with you in Richmond to join you in person. As you get down to work, let me offer my best wishes for a productive meeting. I want you to know that Métis Nation of BC has a strong partner in our government. We're committed to advancing reconciliation with Métis people. We're focused on meeting the objectives of the UN Declaration through a distinction-based approach. And we are taking an all-of-government perspective on Métis relations, including the formation of a Métis Relations Working Table in 2022, and recent new investments in education and skills training for Métis learners. Moving forward, our work will be based on true partnership between our governments. I'm proud of the steps we've already taken and all that we will accomplish together in the months and years to come. Through our actions now and in the future, we recognize the specific rights, interests, and priorities of Métis people, and we're committed to meaningful collaboration to achieve self-determination and reconciliation. I look forward to continuing our work together. Thank you. Hello, Premier David Eby here. I'm speaking to you from the territory of the Lekwungen people.
I want to extend A personal thank you to President Smith and the members of the NBC Board of Directors for inviting me to share a few words as you gather for your General Assembly. I was pleased to meet with Vice President Minalt, Minister Jaeger, and members of your staff this past February during your successful week in Ottawa, where we discussed Métis culture, language, heritage, jurisdiction over child and family services, and governance. Through discussions and engagement at the Reconciliation of Indigenous Rights and Self-Determination table, we are also exploring Métis interests in British Columbia and have embarked on an ambitious research initiative that will support our path forward together. As you gather for your General Assembly, you will discuss policies, goals, and the priorities of MNBC citizens for the coming year. I look forward to the important work that we'll accomplish together to advance these priorities. Our government recognizes the vital role that the Métis Nation plays in Canada's diverse cultural landscape, and will continue to working with you to ensure that your unique needs and aspirations are met. In closing, I want to express my gratitude to the contributions of the Métis Nation, British Columbia. What lies ahead of us is the road to a better future for the Métis Nation and generations to come. Thank you for your ongoing partnership and for your tireless work to advance the interests of the Métis Nation. Thank you.
Tansy, bonjour, hello. I'm Patty Heidi, Minister of Indigenous Services Canada. I'm so pleased to be able to offer a few welcoming remarks. And I want to thank President Lisa Dawn Smith and the entire Board of Directors for giving me an opportunity to say hello. The work that you are doing in the space of improving outcomes for Métis people across BC is tremendous and remarkable. We have to keep going. We have to work together in partnership to undo the many, many traumas related to colonization and the systemic displacement of people. It's really important that we continue to have those difficult conversations together whenever they arise, so that every child can see a brighter future for themselves. Every family has the tools they need. Every person across this country, every Métis, proud Métis, has the tools they need to reach their full potential. Thank you for everything that you're doing, and know that you have an advocate in me along the way.
Good morning, President Lisa Smith, Vice President Walter Minot, MNBC Board of Directors and staff. On behalf of the Métis Nation of Alberta leadership and citizens, I am pleased to bring greetings and well wishes for a very successful 2023 Métis Nation British Columbia Governing Assembly. I would like to first thank MNBC senators for the opening prayers all this week. This is and always has been a Métis tradition, from Louis Riel's prayer of the council to the opening of every Métis Nation event today. It brings us together and helps us to focus on the very important tasks at hand and all the work that needs to be accomplished. It has been a trying few years for all of us. It has also been a time of success, triumph, and great leaps forward. We are one nation. Each milestone that is achieved ripples across the homeland. They pave the path forward for the journey we have continued for self-government and self-determination and recognition. As you all gather here today, you will create some of those ripples by coming together to make those important decisions that will move our nation forward. Your voices are the governing voices of the Métis Nation. I would like to applaud Métis Nation British Columbia's leadership and staff on the great work you have done in advancing Métis families and communities throughout British Columbia. I am so glad to see that MNBC is moving forward and continuing to work together for the betterment of all of our governments. In the true spirit of the Métis, these annual gatherings are a chance for us to visit, see old friends, make new friends, to ensure that the voices of our people are heard, for they are the reason we are all leaders and why we fight for justice, recognition, and Métis rights. Best wishes to everyone in attendance. I do wish you all the very best, and may the governing assembly be a complete success. Thank you.
I would now like to call upon the Chair of the Métis Nation of Ontario, Hank Rollinson, to provide some opening remarks. Please welcome Mr. Rollinson.
Nap after that long walk. Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to be back. I want to thank the senators for the opening prayer. I want to thank President Smith and the Board of Governors for having me back for your AGA. I'm here to provide welcoming remarks on behalf of the leadership and citizens of the Métis Nation of Ontario. I offer greetings and well wishes on behalf of our leadership and citizens. For those that I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet, my name is Hank Rollinson. I'm the chair of the Métis Nation of Ontario. I've served in many other capacities before being elected as chair. I've worked for the MNO for the last 23 years. I was born and raised in the historic Métis community of Sault Ste. Marie, home of the landmark Supreme Court appellate decision, which set out the criteria for establishing Métis rights and forever changed the course of history for Métis in Ontario and beyond. Excuse me. On top of the breakthroughs the Pelly case presented, the decision also spotlighted our continued efforts to fight for Métis rights, recognition, and respect, and to finally realize the dreams of our ancestors. This year, we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Pelly decision, and with that, AGAs taking place this year have a particular significance as we keep in mind the common goals we've been fighting for together for centuries. It's always an honor to connect with Métis from across the homeland, and I look forward with connecting with more of you today. Back in December, the MNO, the MNBC, and other MNC governing members met with federal cabinet ministers in Ontario, in Ottawa, to advance work on implementing joint priorities as outlined in the Canada Métis Nation Accord. This was just one example of the countless recent times our governments have worked in cooperation, partnership, and collaboration. Standing before you today, I want to reaffirm our commitment to continue that dialogue and partnership with MNBC. We are always stronger when we stand together. As Métis, we can accomplish anything if we stand united in our commitments to integrity, transparency, and good governance. We know you have much to celebrate over the next few days and much hard work to do to determine the future. I wish you the best of luck in all your endeavors. You are all making history here today. With that, on behalf of all of us at the Métis Nation of Ontario, I wish you a successful MNC BC Annual Assembly. Take care. Merci, Miigwech.
Hi, everybody. Wow, it's great to see such a full room. Thank you so much for your words, Hank, and for coming all the way from Ontario. I know, I call him Chuck a lot, and I don't know why, but his name is Hank. So I got his name right, so thank you so much, Hank. And it looks like he's making it okay. We don't have to call 911. He's made it back to his seat. So hi, everybody. It's wonderful to see everybody. It's just been so long since we've gathered for an in-person Métis Nation Governing Assembly. I want to thank Senators Gladue and Hugendorn for their wonderful opening comments, as always, and for our Senate for the work they do on behalf of our nation. I really want to acknowledge the jigger and the fiddler that led our grand entry today. It was wonderful to see, especially see our youth jigging. And our veterans, thank you for your flag party service, the Dumont Scouts duties that you do over our Métis Nation governing assemblies, ensuring that there's order in the room. So thank you all, and thank you so much for your service to our country, past, present, and future. And I just can't say that enough, so thank you so much to our veterans. That does always gets me going. So I'd like to acknowledge today that we're on the traditional ancestral territory of the Musqueam First Nations. Unfortunately, we did ask for somebody to come and they weren't able to make it today, so I'd like to acknowledge the territory of the Musqueam. So like I said, it's great to be here. I don't think I have to introduce myself. I think everybody knows who I am. And I was just joking with John, if you don't know who I am, you might be in the wrong meeting room. But so thanks everybody for being here. I know travel at this time of the year is precarious. I know a lot of people had difficulties with flights and different things and road conditions, but we appreciate each and every one of you for being here. I really want to thank Minister Rankin for joining us here today, and he'll be speaking right after myself. So thank you so much. It means so much to our nation to have you here. And it gives me sincere pleasure on behalf of our Board of Directors to acknowledge the hard work you all do day in and day out in meeting the needs of our citizens. As I stated, this is our first in-person MNGA since the start of the COVID pandemic. And I just want to express how meaningful it is to be able to gather in person again. And I'm sure you all share that same sentiment. I believe our last MNGA in 2020, that was right when the pandemic started. And there was a lot of us were very nervous about what was going on. And we certainly didn't know what was to come. But, you know, we've all lived through a pandemic. Unfortunately, not everybody made it through the pandemic. And my heart goes out to everybody that lost people during the pandemic. But so I'm going to provide you with a few brief highlights of what's happened over the past few months since our AGM. So we now have over 23,000 registered citizens, which speaks to the investments of our nation and our Board of Directors that were made through the Registry Renewal Project and the hard work of all our staff. This is really good news. The wait time to become a citizen from the time of a complete application is now 6 months. So that's excellent news. In the summer of 2022, we were at 18 months. So 6 months for a completed application to be processed. That's incredible. So thank you to all our registry staff and everything. We also know that there are nearly 100,000 people in BC who self-identify as Métis in our province. We continue to make strides in welcoming home more and more Métis people into our nation, our communities, and our homes, and just bringing family home and bringing people back to where they belong. As you know, I serve as the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs, leading our government relation activities on both provincial and federal level. I can say confidently that through my 16 years on the Board of Directors, we have never been so engaged with political leaders at either level than we are at this time. We have regular meetings with top cabinet ministers, MLAs, and MPs, and that is reflecting the hard work of our entire team that is putting together our self-government and other important issues at the forefront of government. We have a really incredible intergovernmental relations team, and we're very proud of them, and they work very hard on our behalf. We have more meetings and more interactions with both levels of government than we ever have. Just about a month ago, a team of us went to Ottawa, and we had over 26 meetings that we had with different federal ministers and others. So there's a lot of work happening, and it's really great. This also is reflected in the record amounts of funding that were being provided for delivering services to Métis people, whether it's the $7.1 million in additional skills training funding announcement at our Louis Riel Day celebration in Victoria, or the $2.2 million in funding for Métis mental health and wellness. We are also on track, I'm happy to say, to release the Métis Justice Strategy this year, which will have funding and new staff positions dedicated towards the implementation and rollout of our Métis Justice Strategy. And that's really good news because we hear more and more, our Métis citizens need to be able to access restorative justice, and that's one of our goals in our justice strategy. So once that should be signed fairly soon, and we'll be on our way to implementing that throughout our nation and communities on behalf of the Métis citizens that need the assistance. So as Minister of Justice, this has been an important project, and I'm just so happy to finally see it come to fruition. This is a result of many years in the making, and it did start with regional consultations a couple of years ago on our justice strategy. So we want to thank the province again for supporting us in that work. It's very meaningful. The delivery of programs and services is of critical need to our citizens, which is why our Board of Directors continues to make service delivery a high priority for our citizens, whether it's through the consistent delivery of skills training, employment, and post-secondary education funding, where we saw a record number of students funded this past year, or through our newer programs like the MNGA Home Renovation Program for Elders, which I know is very much needed throughout our province for our Métis elders, or the Métis Child Care Benefit Program, which is benefiting so many families. We continue to find innovative ways to provide culturally relevant programs and services to our citizens. We know there's still a lot of work to do. We are hard at work negotiating with Canada on the self-government because we are the Otipipismisoak, sorry about that, the people who govern themselves. On the provincial front, we are making progress on the commitments made in the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. Our board and staff are at the table consistently negotiating funding agreements and a sustainable roadmap to a new reconciliation agreement with BC, one that reflects and respects distinction-based funding and programming. And I can't say that enough. Métis people deserve and need distinction-based programming. We cannot continually be under the Indigenous umbrella. We are part of the Constitution of Canada under Section 35, where the Aboriginal people of Canada are identified as First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. Our children especially deserve Métis distinction-based programs. I know the question of Métis identity is continuously at the forefront of the minds of many of our citizens and communities. I want to state clearly that MNBC is the Métis Nation government in BC. We are the Métis government recognized by the provincial We are the Métis government. We are the Métis government recognized by the provincial and federal government as representing and negotiating on behalf of Métis people in British Columbia. MNBC will continue to be a very strong advocate for all Métis people in BC. Lastly, I don't want to close without saying the obvious. There is no MNBC without all of you, without our community leadership, without our grassroots community members, without every Métis citizen in British Columbia, but without all of you, the leaders of your communities that are doing the day-to-day work and meeting citizens on a daily basis. We thank you. And without you, there would be no MNBC. and I think we're all aware, we are a government with 39 Métis chartered communities at the grassroots level, and I want you to know that we all honor you, and our doors are always open, and my door is open, and my cell number is actually on the MNBC website. So please don't feel hesitant in contacting any of us should you need anything or need some clarification. We are always here for you. I'm just so proud of all the work of our elected representatives, citizens, volunteers, and staff at MNBC that have been doing and will continue to do the work to move our nation forward. It's all about us. It's all about unity. It's not about, you know, me or you or them. It's about us. It's about all of us. It's about we as a Métis family. We have made so much progress over these last few years, and there's still so much work to do. So let's get on with it, and let's get on with the business of the MNGA. So thank you all. Okay, now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Honorable Murray Rankin, and I think most of us know, we saw the agenda. He is the Minister for Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation, and we want to thank him for joining us. It's such an honor that he joined us. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me at the back. Great, great, great. Well, good afternoon. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I have a few things to say. I want to first of all express my gratitude to Senator Barry Hugendorn and Philip Gladue for opening us up with that prayer. I just love to hear the Cree language. I was a member of Parliament, as some of you know, for 7 years, and I had two Cree-speaking colleagues at that point. One was from Quebec, Romeo Saganash, and the other from northern Saskatchewan, Georgina Jolibois. And the fact that that language has such continuing vitality and has the ability of people from such a great distance to communicate with each other, as I often heard them doing, was just wonderful. So to hear that language again really was moving. And to talk about things that were moving, I got to tell you, when we had the grand entry, it almost brought a tear to my eye. Why? Because my father grew up in Northern Ontario, and Hank, you'll be happy to hear that, another Ontario person, and loved fiddle music. Absolutely adored. In fact, I was a kid, I could not get enough of Don Messer's Jubilee. If you ever watched, the older ones here will remember that. And Don Messer and the Islanders, remember, from PEI. Anyway, the fiddle music was part of my growing up, and I haven't heard it a lot lately, and it reminded me of my father. He told us tales about growing up and in the Depression, trapping beavers to stay alive with an Indigenous colleague who he spoke of fondly in his later years. Anyway, it was very moving, and I'm so grateful to have been able to witness that. So thank you for that opportunity. I also want to express my gratitude to the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people in whose lands we are meeting today. And I want to also acknowledge Hank Rowlandson, who I think it's wonderful to have a fellow Ontarioan here. You'll all notice, I hope, Exhibit 1, Lisa Shepherd tie, which I wore on Louis Riel Day and wear again today. I think I'm likely the second most colorful person here. We can always count on my friend Louis Dieger to top that particular hit parade. Great to see you, Louis. It's great to be here. I want to say it's really great, as President Smith said, to be here together in person. I must confess, if I have to be on another Zoom call or Cisco call or Teams call, I feel like I'm going to commit Harry-Carry. I don't know about you, I'm just so tired of those meetings. And so to be able to not join you virtually, but to be here in person is just great. And I want to salute President Smith for all your leadership. It's really remarkable. I see you so often at various events, including one I'll refer to in a moment, the National Truth and Reconciliation Day launch, which I'll talk about in the next little while. But as you said, we have a very, very enduring relationship with MNBC. The province is very proud, and you should be proud of how you've come, what you're doing, how you represent such a large community in our province. Almost 100,000 people, I understand, and it's just extraordinary. So Louis Riel Day was a very meaningful day, and seeing you again at National Truth and Reconciliation Day launch was really, really appreciated. Let me say a few things. First, it was also pointed out by President Smith that our Constitution in Section 35 acknowledges Aboriginal and treaty rights and defines Indigenous people, Aboriginal people, to include First Nations, of course, but also Métis and Inuit. And we in British Columbia accept that. And in fact, in the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act, which I'm very proud our government enacted with the support of a unanimous legislature, lest anyone think I'm making a partisan comment. I never speak about that act without pointing that fact out. The whole of the representatives of the people of our province stood up and supported the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act. And we recognize, thank you. And it talks about the distinct voices of Indigenous people, and those voices clearly include the Métis. The Act defines Indigenous people, Aboriginal people, Indigenous people, as including Métis and Inuit as well as First Nations people. So we recognize that the only way to address the specific social, cultural, and economic needs of Métis people in BC is to build partnerships, strong, enduring partnerships together. And that is the course that we're embarked upon. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to advancing reconciliation in our province. Surely by now everyone would acknowledge that. And so our relationship with Métis people must be approached in a way that acknowledges the unique history, unique interests, priorities, and circumstances of the Métis in our province. Premier Eby has said it, and I'll say it again. We are committed to working together to improve the lives of Métis people throughout British Columbia in ways that you can actually see and feel in lives of real people. I'm not one to talk solely about highfalutin legal principles that have no meaning on the ground for people. Frankly, I think that those days are over. Now we're at the stage where we're trying to put real meaning behind those words. And that we can only do by rolling up our sleeves and working together. And that's the course that we are on. Our government made a commitment to work with Métis in a partnership. The Métis Nation, the province of British Columbia, in 2021, signed a letter of intent. We're working together toward a new partnership that supports Métis people and includes self-determination through what we call a whole-of-government approach. We're taking action on this, and we're looking forward to continuing that crucial work with you. We acknowledge that change is needed. We are not happy with the status quo any more than you are. But we got to work on this together, and that work is, I'm happy to say, truly underway now. We've moved forward in a couple of important forums. We have the BC Métis Relations Table with a staff level, as well as a senior leadership table. I'm very pleased to say that my Assistant Deputy Minister, Jennifer Mellis, is here. Many of you will know Jennifer. She's working very hard to make that relationship a reality. Thank you, Jennifer. It's all about collaboration, it's all about accountability, but for us, it's all about cross-government cooperation. I'm the minister of one portfolio, but frankly, what often affects your lives more meaningfully, and I think this was alluded to by President Smith, is health, it's housing, it's education. So each of our ministries are committed to some piece of that action. And I can say that with confidence because my greatest responsibility as Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation is to make sure that the action plan that we have co-developed under the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People Act is implemented, that it's not just 89 nice things to say in a report that gathers dust, but that it's actually implemented in the next 5 years of that action plan. And every single year, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be going to the dentist. Every year, we're going to have an annual report. Some of you know, if you've ever worked in government, whenever the Auditor General comes out with a report, people hide under their desk. Well, in a sense, I'm looking forward to that next annual report in late June, the first one that will really talk about what we've done right and what we've done not so well. And that will be an annual event. And we will be held to account, which is exactly what we need to be. Held to account every year for how we're doing. And those actions include, as you know, many things that are extremely pertinent to Métis Nation BC. So that's why we're developing a distinctions-based fiscal relationship and framework. We've started on discussions on what that could mean for MNBC. That's an important long-term goal of our government. And as you know, together, we've created several working groups on economic development, on health, on mental health, and on many other topics. I'm so encouraged by the progress being made at these tables, and I look forward to, as I said earlier, seeing changes on the ground. What does it mean to children? What does it mean to elders? What does it mean to our province as a whole? There are new and expanded programs from government available to Métis people, including new supports in childcare and healthcare. And I was very pleased and grateful that President Smith alluded to what in the last budget has been done and some of the financial arrangements that have been put in place by our government to make our relationship have meaning. Because you need the support, we get that, in order to effectively collaborate with us for a better future. So my Ministry of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation is working with other ministries to expand opportunities for engagement to advance that relationship. That's what it's all about. So this year, as was said, we've provided as a government more than $1.1 million to Métis Nation BC to support important negotiations as well as other initiatives such as our focus on youth. And it was so great to see Métis youth, get my picture taken with them earlier today. Budget 23-2024, which was just announced on Tuesday, is being debated right now. It includes new supports in affordability, housing, healthcare, action on climate change, childcare, every one of which is crucially important to Métis Nation BC. Now, as I said earlier, it's fine to be the only province in Canada, the only government outside of Ottawa, to have a declaration as part of our law. It's great, but we got to do things, as I said earlier, to put meat on the bones of that declaration. And that has to be done in true consultation and cooperation, to use the words of the Act, with Indigenous people, including Métis people. So the Premier recently tasked all of government through what we call the Declaration Act Secretariat to continue to ensure that all of our laws and policies are consistent with the Declaration Act. Please don't mistake what I'm saying. We have a lot of work to do. If we're going to align our laws, some of which go back to the gold rush, with what it says in the Declaration, we've got a ton of work to do, and we get that, and we're doing it. Jessica Wood, an Indigenous woman, is responsible for the Declaration Act Secretariat. It's not a part of my ministry, it's all of government. She reports to a higher level than my ministry alone, in order to make sure that it's an all-of-government approach. We got lots of work to do, but that is a focal point to get it done. If everyone's responsible, my mother used to say, no one is responsible. Well, we have a responsibility center in the government, and that is the Declaration Act Secretariat. Its only job is to make sure that we put meat on the bones. Its only job is to assure we align our laws, both future bills that come forward and existing legislation, and with the solemn commitments of the Declaration Act. Because we want to make sure we create a future where First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people can thrive and fully realize their constitutional rights, your constitutional rights, under Section 35 of our Constitution Act. So, thank you. So what we did was we released, and I encourage you to look at it, the interim approach to implement, it's big words here, the interim approach to implement the requirements of Section 3 of the Declaration Act. I think we could have come up with a better title, personally. But it's guidance. You can look at it to see how we're trying to do what I just said. These are lofty goals, aren't they? Imagine aligning the Heritage Conservation Act, the child welfare legislation, the Forest Act, the welfare legislation, the Health Act. Imagine aligning all of that with the solemn statements in the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act. That is not for sissies, as Grand Chief Stuart Phillip used to say. That's a tough, tough job. And so we are pleased that an interim approach to how to do that is on the table. That's how we're doing it. Take a look, see if you think it makes sense. And ultimately, we're going to go further as we try to make sure every sector of government has clear processes for how they're working together with Indigenous peoples in developing laws, policies, and practices. I hope you all appreciate just what an enormous undertaking that is, and we're enthusiastic to be doing that historic work. Because I think we need to bring that distinctions-based approach to everything we do. This requires the provinces dealing with Métis, First Nations, and Inuit peoples to be conducted in a manner that acknowledges the specific rights, interests, and priorities and concerns of each, while respecting and acknowledging these distinct peoples with their unique cultures, histories, rights, laws, and governments. We're committed to implementing a distinctions-based approach to the interpretation and implementation of the Declaration Act, and we're taking concrete steps to ensure that these diverse and distinct rights of Indigenous peoples are respected and reflected in our laws and policies. Now, as I said earlier, President Lisa Smith and I, in early February, had the honor of attending the introduction of legislation for the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. It was very meaningful to have you there, Lisa. Thank you. And you represented Métis and reminded us, it's often forgotten, and I'm the first to acknowledge that, it's often forgotten that Métis attended residential schools in our province in large numbers. And they also were some of the survivors, yes, but also some of the children who never came home were Métis. What our government has done is enact legislation that, beginning in September, on September 30th of this year, will make every September 30th a national day for reflection and sober thought, to think about the past, but to think about the future, how we can work together for a better future for our children and grandchildren. That's what it's all about, because you don't have reconciliation without truth, and truth means learning what really happened. I'm one of those kids growing up in Ontario who never knew anything about residential schools, and I'm not alone. Premier Horgan tells a very moving story about how he, with a history master's degree, learned about the truth of residential schools in a gymnasium near Duncan. Like, we shouldn't be ashamed about our education in the past, because it wasn't our fault we didn't know the truth. But I'll tell you one thing, it'll not be possible for children in our province to graduate from high school without knowing the truth of residential schools. That is a requirement under the Action Plan. And I'm asking you, MNBC, and each one of you here, to help us figure out how September 30th can be not just a day to go to the beach, because yes, in parts of our province, September 30th is still summer. I'm asking you to help us make it a day like Remembrance Day, a day where we think solemnly of the past and maybe reflect on peace. That's the kind of day we need to create as British Columbians. We're the only province outside of Prince Edward Island that has done this. One of the calls to action in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report was, in fact, that there be a national day. And I commend Ottawa for making sure that there's a day for federal employees. But guess what? That's like 10% of our workforce in British Columbia and in every other province. In this province, every worker will be able to have that day to reflect on the past and work together to create a better future for our children and grandchildren. I think that's what this day is about. And I'm looking to you to help us figure out in every community of our province, because I know you come from all parts of our province, what that would look like. In Victoria, I've watched, where I happen to live, I've watched Remembrance Day grow from a few people showing up at the cenotaph, literally back in the 90s, to it having to get there many, many hours early if you're going to be anywhere close to the cenotaph. It's become a day where all Canadians, and I want to reflect on the importance of veterans and how pleased I was to see you bring into your opening ceremony the veterans to reflect on what they've contributed to our country. But in the same vein, I need your help in figuring out how we can ensure that this September 30th, the first one to be launched outside of Prince Edward Island at the provincial level, is meaningful. And I'm looking to you and your MNBC to help us do that. Because we got to figure out how to locally commemorate this. What kind of education events could there be? How do we make sure people have important conversations with their families, with their communities? And how do we learn about our shared history? So I think I have to acknowledge that there, and I've learned this in my role, that there is such a thing as intergenerational trauma. And Indigenous peoples across our country have experienced that. It's a reality. It's not just a phrase that psychologists would use, and we've all seen it, and you have in your lives, many of you, that reality. And so by enshrining, I think, by enshrining a day in our law, that'll give people the chance to honor the strength and resilience of residential school survivors. Remember those children who didn't come home, and reflect on how we can do better as a country and as a province in the future. Just by way of conclusion, let me say, and I say this sincerely, it's great to be with you in person and not on a Zoom call. I want to say thanks to MNBC for having me here and for all the organizers. I hope this is a very successful assembly. And I look forward to our continued work together to strengthen our relationships and our partnership. Merci, miigwech. There's a photo op. Thank you very much. Thank you. I treasure this. Thank you so much.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, again. I am John Beaker, and I will be the MNGA clerk for this weekend. I must say that I've served as deputy clerk for a few MNGAs previously, and it is I am humbled and honored to be serving as clerk for you today, the 2023 MNGA, the first in-person MNGA we've had since 2020. I'd also like to introduce our deputy clerk, who is way in the back at the tech table, which Nicole Ludwig, our manager of governance. I'm assuming that she's standing up and waving. So Nicole will be assisting the assembly with putting the motions on the screens when we get to certain resolutions and everything else. So our first order of business is to confirm that we have a quorum present of delegates. To do that, we do a roll call. Roll call is alphabetical. When you hear your name, please state that you're present or otherwise conscious. If the person is not present, I will ask if there is a delegate from that specific community present. Under the MNGA Act, the president or the vice president may be a delegate. So I will start with calling the roll. David Allard. Welcome. Joy Bremner.
Here.
Welcome. And apologies if I mispronounce any names. Xavier Brewer. Welcome. Ron Caron. Welcome. Nicole Corson. Welcome. Jeff Crozier. Welcome. Sean Davern. Here. Welcome. Louis DeJager. Welcome. Sylvia DeRoche. Welcome. Shell Dodman. Welcome. Kate Elliott. Welcome. Alicia Fernando. Welcome. Monica Fisher. Welcome. Deborah Fisher. Welcome. Paulette Flamond. Welcome. Lee Fraser. Welcome. Rainey Gervais. Welcome. Dean Gladue. Welcome. Tony Goulet. Made me look up. Welcome. June Graham. Welcome. Patrick Harriet. Like you'd miss one of these. Susie Hooper. Welcome. Brenda House. Is there a representative from the Northeast Métis Association present? Travis Jobin. Welcome. Jamie Lee Keith. Is there a representative from the South Okanagan Similkameen Métis Association present? Melissa Kelm. Welcome. Richard Lewis. Present. Welcome. Tyler Massey. Welcome. Betty McDonnell. Welcome. Caitlin McMillan. Welcome. Walter Minot.
Here.
Peggy Olansky.
I'm not welcome.
That's tough. He's right beside me. Yes, you're welcome, Vice President Minot. Peggy Olansky. Welcome. Lana Olson. Welcome. Trish Paulson. Welcome. Brianna Peltier. Welcome. David Peltier, present, but I believe there is a different representative for the Golden Ears Métis Society present. Lisa Shepard, welcome. Try as we might, there's always an error on the quorum sheets. I try very hard. George Pope. Is there a representative for the Métis Community Society of Kelly Lake present? And your name, sir? Welcome, Curtis. Val Pace. Is there a representative for the River of the Pace Métis Society present? Christina Sample. Welcome. Kelly Sears. Welcome. Mert Servatius. Oh, on the bus. Is there a representative present for the Kootenai South Métis Society? I trust Mert will hopefully join us at least by tomorrow. I know. Dana Shaw. Is there a representative for the Boundary Métis Community Association present? Natasha Smith. Welcome. Lisa Smith. Welcome. Greg Stanwood. Welcome. Joy Sundin. Welcome. Marlene Swears. Welcome. And Pixie Wells. Welcome. So I can confirm that we have 45 delegates in attendance, and we do have a quorum present. Thank you. I would now like to move to the nomination and acceptance of the MNGA speaker. As you can see, there are a couple of seats next to me that are empty. The speaker's term is a 2-year term, and that has expired this year. And per the MNGA Act, we can have a speaker, and a deputy speaker. There are some options, but we'll be looking for nominations from the delegates for a presiding officer or officers of the MNGA for a 2-year term. I would like to open the floor up for nominations. If you wish to nominate somebody, please open with your name, your community, or your position on the board, and who you would like to nominate. I open the floor for nominations at this point. Go ahead, Patrick.
Patrick Harriet, Region 1 Director. I would like to nominate for Speaker Victoria Pruton and Deputy Speaker David Pelletier.
Thank you. Very quick second.
There it is.
Okay, now it's working. The light wasn't going on before. I would like to nominate.
Sorry,
Sir.
just one quick second, please. I will get to your nomination. I would like to confirm that Victoria Pruden and Dave Pelletier both consent to the nomination of Speaker and Deputy Speaker. Yes, and they are present. Thank you very much. Please proceed with your nomination.
Sorry, my name is Patricia Paulson, Northwest BC Métis Association. Can you explain a little bit more of the procedure right now? If someone has nominated 2 people, one for each of those positions, would you still be able to nominate? Okay, so I would like to nominate Dave Pelletier for the speaker and Carmen Carrier for the deputy speaker.
Thank you very much. Is Carmen Carrier present and willing to let her name stand? Okay, thank you very much. I would like to call for any further nominations of Speaker or Deputy Speaker at this time, please. I will call once again for any nominations for Speaker or Deputy Speaker at this time. We are in our final descent for Speaker and Deputy Speaker at this time. Any final calls or names put forward for nomination? I now declare nominations to be closed. We have a bit of a interesting situation here where we have a person who has been nominated for Speaker and Deputy Speaker. Yes.
Excuse me.
That is true. That is true. Thank you very much. Mr. Pelletier, as your name has been put forward twice, do you accept a nomination for both positions or only one position? I'll accept for both. Thank you very much. Okay. So what we have for nominations is that we have a nomination package for Victoria Pruden as Speaker and Dave Pelletier as Deputy Speaker. And then we have a nomination for Dave Pelletier to be Speaker and Carmen Carrier to be Deputy Speaker. At this point, I would like to propose that we proceed with the election for Speaker thusly. I would like to give the option of each of the nominees to speak for, let's say, no more than 2 minutes as to why they want to put their nominees forward, at which point we will proceed with a vote on that. Or would you also like to hear from the nominated people for, let's say, 1 minute as to why you should choose them? So we can either have just the nominator speak, or we can have the nominators and the candidates speak. Both? Both? Okay. I will recognize Tris Paulson. You have 2 minutes to give your nominating speech, please.
I won't need the full 2 minutes. No offense intended, and I think that it's important that we operate within our own community, within our own province, and the nomination that I did not make is not a member of, as far as I know, of MNBC, nor do they reside here. And there's a conflict of interest with other affiliations. And I think that is very important to know.
Point of order, please.
We're not actually in session, but I suppose I will entertain a point of order.
I just think, in fairness to both candidates, if we could just, if you could just speak to why you nominated your name, please, because what I'm hearing is not really correct information, and yeah.
My apologies for that. I'm misinformed. I think that Carmen Carrier is very well prepared to take the role of this position. She has demonstrated knowledge of the role and does her due diligence in every aspect of the work that I've seen her conduct in her duties as a representative for MNBC.
Thank you very much. I would now like to give the floor over to Mr. Harriott to provide his nominating speech, please.
Thank you, everyone. I think since Mr. Pelletier is well known as the previous speaker, and he's nominated for both slates, I will focus on the other candidate, which is Victoria Pruden, which I believe everyone, I would assume almost everyone knows Victoria Pruden. I have known her for quite some time, and she has been a part of Métis life, political life, community life at every level. She has helped make Bannock at the Rendezvous. She has been the community vice president, the community president of the Métis Nation Greater Victoria. She's been a staff member here at MNBC. She's been on the board of MNBC in the past. She has a lot of skills in chairing meetings, and I think that she is the right fit to be Speaker of this Assembly.
Thank you very much. I'd like to just briefly interrupt our proceedings right now and wonder if anyone would like to add their name to the quorum count? Servatius? Okay. Thank you. We now have
Mert
46
Servatius from Trail.
Welcome. Everybody. Okay, so I would now like to invite the three candidates for Speaker and Deputy Speaker to come and give a 1 minute or less speech as to why you should vote for them for these respective positions. I will invite Mr. Pelletier to come up first, to sit here at the microphone. Mr. Pelletier, you have 1 minute, starting once you sit down and turn on your microphone, please.
All right, this is fun. Usually I'm the one setting the timer for everyone speaking here. So I appreciate the nominations, I really do. Last year was my second term, I think, as MNGA Speaker. It's a role that I take seriously. I mean, come on, I put pants on for these. But in all seriousness, it's a role that I do take serious. I think our governance is very important. I've had the opportunity to sit in these other chairs here to speak at these events, and I think that my skills that I've been lucky enough to develop over the last number of years in chairing or AGMs and working as speaker for these meetings, I think it puts me in good stead, and I think I have the experience to help facilitate the business that's going to happen this weekend. So I hope you'll vote for me in one of the two positions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pelletier. I'd like to now invite Carmen Carrier forward to give a 1 minute speech once she sits down and puts the light on her microphone.
Hello, everybody. I heard when my name was mentioned, somebody said, "Who's Carmen?" So I will introduce myself. My name's Carmen Carrier, and I am the Region 2 Women's Rep. My family roots are deep in the Red River. Some of my family names are Carrier, Hamlin, Parenteau, Vandel, Saint Germain, to name a few, and many others. I'm a proud Métis citizen, and I have been in my role as the Region 2 Women's Rep for just over a year now. And I am also volunteering my time to be on the governance committee for MNBC. So in my role on that committee, I am really interested in governance. I really believe in good governance. I am somebody who really wants to learn. And I also want to bring voice for our Métis women, because I believe our Métis women are the heart of our nation, and our Métis women look after everybody in our nation. So thank you for having me, and thank you for putting me on the spot and allowing me to speak.
I would now like to invite Victoria Pruden up.
Tansakakyo, Victoria Pruden, Isikason. The first thing I have to say is Kayas. It's been a while. It's a pleasure to be with you around this table, colleagues. For those of you who don't know me, I reside in Victoria, British Columbia. I'm the past president of the Greater Victoria, Métis Nation Greater Victoria, past president, past vice president, past board member, volunteer. I had the pleasure of serving MNBC as a staff member for 7 years. I drafted the first Women's Act when I was the first director of women that MNBC had in 2006. It was also a pleasure to draft the Veterans Act for Métis Nation, British Columbia. I'm a mother of a Métis son who turned 16 on Sunday. And exactly 16 years ago, he was at his first women's conference with what became the Métis Women of British Columbia 16 years ago. So I'm open to whatever the will of the Assembly is. I certainly didn't agree to be nominated for Speaker or Deputy Speaker or Co-Speaker to be controversial. I live here in this province. I've invested a lot of my life in serving the Métis Nation, British Columbia in various ways.
I'm
And
sorry, I'm sorry your time.
it's okay. Thank you. Can I ask well?
Thank you, everyone. We'll now proceed with the vote for the two different, for lack of a better term, slates for Speaker and Deputy Speaker. Just to remind everyone, we have a nomination for Victoria Pruden to be Speaker and Dave Pelletier to be Deputy Speaker. And then we have a nomination for Dave Pelletier to be Speaker and Carmen Carrier to be Deputy Speaker. I think for the simplicity for casting your vote, maybe let us either say that you cast a vote for the Victoria Dave or the Dave Carmen choice. I will go through the roll call once again. So when your name is called, please give your answer for which nominees you wish to vote for, or if you wish not to vote.
Yes, point of clarification for those not aware, could we have a very quick definition of what the two roles entail, since we're looking at two different scenarios, please?
Thank you. The MNGA Act provides for a Speaker and Deputy Speaker, and then it says what a presiding officer for the MNGA does. It doesn't provide any specific roles for a Speaker or a Deputy Speaker. I believe that the intention was to have that a Speaker or a Deputy Speaker would either be in a co-chairing scenario or would be able to chair a session of the MNGA. There is no specific role one way or another, but they are the presiding officer. They are the ones to, call on people to speak. They are the ones to keep the business going, et cetera. Presiding officer of this assembly. Does that answer everyone's questions? That's what we're looking for. Okay. I will now go through the roll call.
Shouldn't we just go decision 1 or decision 2 instead of the names?
Go ahead, Vice President.
I just wanted a suggestion, instead of saying the names Victoria Dave or Dave and Carmen, can we just switch that to decision 1 as Victoria and Dave, and decision 2 as Dave and Carmen? That would make it, I think, simpler when we come to the vote. Yeah. It's just decision 1 would be Victoria and Dave. Decision 2 would be Dave and Carmen. Is everybody okay with that?
I think that that's reasonable. Is everyone okay with that? Okay, so just to repeat, option 1 is Victoria Pruden and Dave Pelletier. Option 2 is Dave Pelletier and Carmen Carrier. So I will now proceed with calling the roll, and there will be some mistakes or some people out of order, but I will get to everyone, and at the end, if I did not call your name, please raise your hand and you will be acknowledged. But we
It's on the screen.
Let them know it's on the screen as well.
And it's on the screen.
Yeah, techies.
There we go. Okay. I will now start calling the roll. David Allard.
David Allard, Salmon Métis Association, Victoria Pruden, Dave Pelletier, option 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Joy Bremner.
Option 1, Victoria Pruden and Dave Pelletier.
Thank you. Xavier Brewer. Thank you. Ron Caron.
Option 1.
Thank you. Nicole Corson.
Option 1.
Thank you. Jeff Crozier.
Option 1.
Thank you. Sean Davern.
Option 1.
Louis DeJager.
Option 1.
Sylvia DeRoche. Cheryl Dodman.
Option 2.
Kate Elliott. Alicia Fernando.
If I could say both, but option 2.
Monica Fisher.
Option 2.
Deborah Fisher.
Option 2.
Paulette Flamond. Lee Fraser.
Option 1.
Rainey Gervais. Dean Gladue.
Option 1.
Tony Goulet.
Option 1.
June Graham. Patrick Harriott.
Option 1.
Susie Hooper.
Option 2.
Travis Jobin. Melissa Kelm.
Option 1.
Richard Lewis. Tyler Massey. Betty McDonnell. Caitlin McMillan. Walter Minot.
Option 1.
Peggy Olansky. Lana Olson. Trish Paulson. Brianna Peltier. Lisa Shepard. Curtis Belcourt. Christina Sample. Kelly Sears. Mert Servatius. Natasha Smith. Lisa Smith.
Abstain, please.
Greg Stanwood. Joyce Sundin. Marlene Swears. Pixie Wells. Thank you. Did I miss anyone present? Please wait while I count the votes. The results are 27 votes for option 1, 16 votes for option 2, 1 abstention. I therefore declare that Victoria Pruden has been elected as Speaker and Dave Peltier has been elected as Deputy Speaker. Please welcome both.
John? John?
Can I just clarify, was it Dave as speaker and Victoria as alternate speaker, or the other way around? Okay.
Just a quick note, the chairs are about to call the meeting to order, at which point, please be recognized to speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to call this meeting to order. 3:27 p.m. Can we just go ahead and sort of speak about it? Okay. In the conversations that Dave Peltier and I had about co-chairing this meeting, we agreed that it would be very much an approach of co-chairing rather than having a speaker who is taking a primary role and a deputy speaker who would be taking a secondary role. We very much want to approach this assembly as a co-chairing experience. I had the opportunity of observing Dave and a colleague co-chair of the Métis National Council Assembly just a few months ago, and they held the chair role, the speaker role, very much as co-chairs, co-speakers, and it worked very well. Dave and I have known each other for a number of years, and I think that's how we'll approach the weekend's speaking role, chairing role.
Yeah, and I would agree with that completely. This is, I think when we're looking at it as a co-chair kind of position or approach, I should say, obviously the legislation has the specific terminology of speaker and deputy speaker, so obviously we'll work with the legislation we have. But the approach will be the same. And so when we're going through, and we'll get to here, just if we've got the next step on our agenda, will be to look at the adoption of the agenda. So we'll get to that in just a moment, and I am cognizant of the time as always. And I do see, sorry, just a moment. Perfect. So it looks like if you saw on the draft agenda, at least the one in the book, 3:30 was for a health break. They're still finalizing setting that up. So I think that's great. That'll work us so we can get these first couple steps dealt with and move forward. So we will then move on to, having called the meeting to order, we will go to number 1, adopting the agenda. Everyone should have a loose copy that was provided, that was on the table. And I think we'll work from that. So what I'm going to look for at this time,
just before we get going, I'd just like to, we'd just like to thank Carmen Carrier for putting her name forward, and we'd like to thank you very much.
Yes, very much so. Thank you, Carmen. So what I'm going to ask then is to have a mover and a seconder to have the agenda, the draft agenda, put before the Assembly. At that time, if there's any wishes to change, to add, to move things around, we can have that discussion, and then we'll proceed on to formalize the agenda for this weekend. So I'm looking for a mover and seconder, and I'll ask each part, and I know Vice President Minot did not do this, but we do have minute takers, and so please identify yourself, and it's particularly important when we're moving and seconding and doing things like that. So at this time, Deputy Speaker recognizes President Goulet.
Thank you. Tony Goulet, North Caribou Métis Association, and I move the agenda.
Thank you, President Goulet.
Monica Fisher, Columbia Valley Métis. I will second that.
Thank you very much. So we have the agenda, the draft agenda on the floor, and sometimes it's hard to see whether it's the lights, sometimes the flags are blocking it, and sometimes a higher hand is of assistance just to let us know, and that way we can keep track of any speakers list and things like that. So is there any discussion on the order or anything of that nature? And Deputy Speaker recognizes President Allard.
David Allard, Salmon Métis Association. I'd like to submit a correction to the draft agenda. I think the wrong president of Métis Nation Alberta showed up in the greetings today. Is it possible that the name is incorrect in the draft agenda? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. That will be corrected. Are there any other comments or questions? This would be the time, for example, if there was questions about or just wishing to change the order of discussion of certain resolutions. Certainly they're numbered as such, but they don't need to remain in that order if it's the will of the Assembly to speak to resolutions in a different order, but now is the time to deal with that. I do see a microphone there. And
Joy Bremner, Mid-Island Métis Nation. In the past, there were occasions when actually generally Sunday was left open for the communities to speak, and even then we would show their reports up on the screen. But for each president to be able to speak about specific issues or concerns or real positives that were happening in their communities. And I think as we have our extra RGCs throughout this year, I think it would be really beneficial if we all considered that, so that next time we have this official MNGA, we actually are looking at the community presidents have a voice at this meeting, because this essentially is our place in which to actually voice from our community what we're doing, what the wishes are, what the needs are, what the basic struggles are. And so I think, I'm just asking and suggesting perhaps we could all consider that over the next year. Thanks.
Thank you, President Bremner, and I think that's a well-taken point. This is our first year of having multiple MNGAs, or regular scheduled or will be scheduled MNGAs. It's a little different this year insofar as the changes that occurred at the AGM were to have 3 a year. The idea 3 between each AGM, obviously just with the timing of this being the first of this year, we're only going to have 2 MNGAs prior to the next AGM. But I do take that point, and I see our clerk is making notes. I think going forward, and I agree, the idea of doing that and perhaps in the in-person version, as that's obviously when we get to actually see each other and interact in a more personal way, to have those types, or having that added to the agenda. I think that's a good point. Are there any other comments or discussion on the agenda? Otherwise, we will go to determining whether we can move forward with unanimous consent. Yes.
I just have a comment on what just happened. I guess I missed the memo or the email. I missed them a lot. I didn't realize that we were going to nominate 2. I think it's wonderful, male, female. That's wonderful. But I found that difficult, kind of going, but I thank all 3 of you for putting your names forward.
Thank you, President McDonough. I'm not seeing any other hands, so one of the things that we're going to try to do, as we've done in the last couple assemblies and meetings, is first look if we can get unanimous consent, of course, other than final resolutions that require a roll call vote. So I'm going to ask if we have unanimous consent to adopt the draft agenda as presented with the correction. That means if you object to that, please raise your hand at this point. Not seeing any objection, then the agenda as drafted with the correction is adopted.
Okay, so next we're going to move on to reviewing and adopting the standing rules for the 2023 March MNGA. Can I review the rules?
Sure.
Okay.
So, the draft MNGA standing rules are found on page 44 of your 2023 MNGA kit. The 2023 MNGA kit has all of the business-related documentation for the MNGA. This is not to be confused with the other book, the report kit, which is the fine reports that the communities and everyone else put together. We are looking at page 44 of the 2023 MNGA kit. So, for the more keen observers of MNGA proceedings, you will notice that these are the same draft standing rules that we put forward last year for the MNGA that worked rather well. I can briefly read through them. So number 1, the meeting will be run in accordance with the relevant provisions of the MNBC Constitution and MNGA Act. A delegate who wishes to speak at the MNGA will request to do so. I believe that the speakers would like you to raise your hands, is that correct?
Yeah, hands or the light. It's sometimes just with the light, sometimes there's things blocking it we can't see. So if you do put a light and it doesn't look like we're getting to you, maybe raise the hand as well.
Thank you for that clarification. Wait to be recognized. So When you wish to speak, you raise your hand or you put your light on for your microphone. Wait to be recognized by the speakers and open by stating your name and community. On each issue or motion, a delegate is entitled to speak up to 2 times for no longer than 3 minutes each time. Speaking a third time or longer than 3 minutes will require permission from the Assembly. If an individual has questions, they may ask one follow-up question within the same 3 minutes time slot. To speak a second time on the same motion or agenda item, a delegate must wait until those who wish to speak on it for the first time have done so. Debate must be related to the pending motion or agenda item. The speakers may alternate between proponents and opponents to a pending motion if needed. The subsidiary motion of previous question is not in order prior to 30 minutes of a discussion on a motion or agenda item unless approved by unanimous consent. A motion to amend a motion or agenda item is not in order prior to 5 delegates speaking to the main motion unless approved by unanimous consent. And delegates must observe decorum, must avoid personal attacks and disorderly or discourteous behaviors, and are expected to help maintain a safe and respectful meeting environment.
So now we're going to seek, sorry, we're going to ask someone for a resolution to adopt our standing rules, please.
Yeah, hi, David Allard, Salmon Army Association. If possible, can I make a quick request, perhaps a very short discussion to the Assembly via the chair in relation to having the sequence of votings not exclusively follow the last name order, meaning we can change it up every vote, so the person with the last name starting with A doesn't vote the first for the next 3 days?
Yeah, that is a really, really good idea. Thank you for that suggestion. Yes. Yes. So there's been a suggestion that we switch between alphabetical order from A to Z, to switch it up to go Z to A, and look at having some variety in terms of roll call voting.
Dixie, get ready.
Yeah. Patrick Harriet?
No, John is just.
Oh.
Yep, sure recognize.
Oh, Patrick Harriet, Region 1 Director. I would like to second that motion.
Pardon me? Sorry, I'm just trying to recognize John. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to defer to John Beaker for a moment, just to review some points in the MNGA Act which might contradict your wishes.
Thank you for the query. I'd like to refer everyone to page 170 of the kit and to Article 4.22 of the MNGA Act, which I will read out. The procedure for taking roll call votes is to call the names of the representatives or delegates alphabetically and to have each person indicate orally his/her vote. That should really read there. All those in favor of the adoption of the resolution shall say yes as their names are called. Those opposed will say no. Those who wish to abstain will say abstain, and the MNGA clerk will call the roll. I am usually pretty pedantic at what words mean, but I suppose reverse alphabetical order would not necessarily violate the spirit of the MNGA Act. Please do not ask me to put it in any other order because I printed off all of the sheets, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Chair recognizes David Allard.
Yes, thank you. Since we're dealing with letters, can we agree that I was almost SOL here?
Chair recognizes Caitlin Bird. So we're going to seek unanimous consent on this. Oh, sorry, Chair recognizes Tony Goulet.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tony Goulet, North Caribou Métis Association. And I think this assembly, by the will, I think can make that change. I think we can accommodate, I think if that's the will of this entire assembly, that we reverse the order. Even though we're in controversy, I think for this meeting, we can make that for this meeting only and be allowed to have that change. But future meetings could be to the alphabetical order again unless we change our act. So I think if it's the will of the assembly to do that, I think we need to put that question out there. I see a lot of people saying, yes, change it up a bit. So I'm just saying that it can be the will of this assembly to do that.
Thank you so much. Okay, I think we'll, are there any more, is there any further discussion on this? Okay, so we're going to seek unanimous consent on this. Are there any objections? Okay.
Did we get a mover and seconder?
Yeah, we got David Allard and then Patrick Harriott seconded. Yeah, okay, so carried by unanimous consent. Thank you very much.
All right, so just given the time and what's set up, the refreshments are set up. Is it this way? Thank you. And it's, sorry, it was tea, coffee, water, and drinks. It's not the snacks and stuff. So once we'll break for 10 minutes. Please be back. Grab your coffee. You can always bring it back to your seat. 10 minutes. So that I've got that'll be 3:55. Thank you.
Turn up the heat a little bit.
If I can have everyone.
Okay. Hi, everyone. We're going to resume, and I'll hold the microphone a little bit closer. I was a little bit quiet there before the break, but what we're going to do next is we're going to seek a motion to review and adopt the minutes for the 2022 special MNGA held February 3rd, 2022. And so that's on page 6 of your booklet. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? So we can review and adopt these minutes. Okay.
Caitlin Bird, President, Métis Nation, Greater Victoria.
Okay, thank you. And then I believe we had Glenn.
I'll second it. Greg Stanwyck.
Oh, sorry, Greg.
Greg Stanwyck, thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, any discussion, corrections in the minutes that you would like to have noted?
I'd like Patrick Harriet, Region 1 Director. I don't see much conversation, so I'd like to call a question.
Okay. Okay, excellent. So we're going to be seeking unanimous consent. Are there any objections to adopting the minutes from the February 3rd, 2022 meeting? Okay, seeing none. Motion passed. Okay, and I'd like to seek a motion to review and adopt the minutes for the 2022 Métis Nation Governing Assembly, March 4th to 6th, 2022, please.
Tyler Massey, North Island Métis, I move to accept.
Thank you.
Pixie Wells, Fraser Island Métis Association, I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Are there any amendments to these minutes that need to be made? Okay.
Can I amend Region 3 for on page 14 for the, it says right here, 2020. Oh, sorry, I apologize.
It's got the wrong year.
Wrong year.
Okay.
I forgot what year I was in.
All right. Are there any other corrections or amendments that need to be made to those minutes? Okay, question has been called. We're going to seek unanimous consent to review and adopt the MNGA March 4th to 6th, 2022 minutes. Okay, motion passed unanimously. Thank you.
So I'm just noting the time, as always. It is 4:10, which is great, but we do have a hard cutoff at 4:30, so we're going to keep moving along with the acceptance of written reports. This you should have in the second booklet of the kit. It should all be included there if everyone has that. This we're going to ask for a mover and a seconder for the acceptance of those reports. I see, Deputy Speaker recognizes,
Susie Hooper, Tri-River Métis, Northwest. I put this on the floor and motion this.
thank you very much, and I see a
I'll
second.
second the motion. Marlene Swears from the Carriage Gulf Métis.
Thank you very much, President Swears. So we have the reports. Generally, it's not a discussion point on there. We all have them, which is great. And so I will ask for unanimous consent for the acceptance of those reports. Is there anyone who wishes to object to the acceptance of the reports contained within the booklet? Not seeing any objection, then the reports, the written reports of the President, Secretary, Treasurer, Regional Directors, Ministries, Chief Executive Officer, Senate, and Chartered Communities are accepted. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on now, in the interest of time, to Resolution 1. And are you going to review that? Okay, and I'm going to call on our clerk, please, to assist in reviewing Resolution 1.
Page 46 for everyone following along.
Thank you very much. I was just going to mention the page. So, Resolution 1, subject, upcoming MNGA meetings. No legislation is affected. Submitted by the MNGA Governance Committee, submitted to the MNGA Clerk, date submitted January 17th, 2023. Whereas the Constitution requires that the MNGA meet at least 3 times per year, once in person and twice virtually, and the Constitution further requires that the MNGA determine the dates for the next MNGA at a previous MNGA. Be it resolved that the MNGA meet on the following days as indicated in the table below. June 3rd to 4th, 2023, virtually. December 2nd to 3rd, 2023, virtually. And March 1st to 3rd, 2024, in person.
Okay, so we're seeking a mover and a seconder for this motion, please.
Lisa Shepherd, Golden Ears Métis Society, I so move.
Sean Davern, Provincial Youth Chair, I'll second this.
Okay, excellent. And so we're going to move to some discussion on the motion, please. Recognizing Lee Fraser first, and then we'll go to Greg Stanwood, please.
Lee Fraser, Surrey Delta Métis Association. I'd like to propose an amendment to the dates. I don't think it's a good idea to have the meeting in December because we have a lot of community events during December. And it's a long stretch from June to December. I'm proposing November 4th and 5th instead of December 2nd and 3rd.
That was the same concern. Okay. And I'll accept those dates as well.
Patrick Harriet, Region 1 Director. The reason that it's a long stretch is because we have our AGM as well. So there are actually 4 times that we need to meet. And I know that I was concerned as well, like I'm part of the governance committee, so we really deliberated quite a bit, like how do we fit these into, busy community schedules. And it is difficult, so I understand how December is full. I just wanted to give some context as to sort of why we were thinking every 3 months essentially.
Chair recognizes David Allard.
David Allard, Salmon Métis Association. I support this resolution. As Patrick, I'm part of the governance committee, and beyond supporting this, I'd like to make a quick pitch. The committee still needs representatives from Region 4, 5, and 7. That's just sharing this information. I think it's an opportune moment. This is the first meeting, resolution that the committee has submitted, and we could use more participation. I support this motion, this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, President Allard. Chair recognizes President Lisa Shepherd.
Vice President. Thank you.
Sorry, Vice
I don't want
President
the
Lisa
promotion.
Shepherd.
Thank you. I would also support the move to the November 4th, 5th, and I'd also point out that November 5th is actually daylight saving, so we'd fall back, which means we might actually show up on time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chair recognizes Dean Gladue, please.
All right. Dean Gladue, Region 3 Director. Just in regards to the November dates that are being suggested, my concern would be that we have a bigger date that a lot of communities are preparing for, and that's Louis Riel Day. That's right. That's coming up very shortly thereafter, and there's a lot that goes into these communities, and that would be more where I'd rather see a lot more effort, people, because that is our day. So I support the first days of December there. So thanks.
Okay, Chair recognizes Sean Davern.
Sean Davern, Provincial Youth Chair. I just wanted to bring, I believe, a point of order that we don't actually have a seconder for this amendment yet.
Yeah, we do. Greg.
Yeah, Greg Stanhope. Okay.
And then there's a Louis Riel, so that's, that would be 3 weekends in November. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
So on behalf of my community in Mid-Island Métis Nation, and I'm Joy Bremner, the leader, we would certainly support the December 2nd and 3rd. And, you know, with Remembrance Day, and we actually do a Métis Awareness Week around the Louis Riel Day. So it's a full week of activity in our city, you know, and so it would be difficult, you know, moving it to November for our community. Thank you.
Recognizing, is that Lisa Shepherd's light on? Please go ahead.
Thank you. I just wondered if I could hear if there had been consideration for November 25th, 26th, and if there was a reason to avoid that, because that would fall after Louis Riel Day, but then would also get us out of that month of December, which I know our community is always very busy in December.
Is there someone who would like to speak to that?
Is this a formal amendment? What are we speaking to here? Oh.
Patrick Harriet, Region 1 Director. If I can recall the conversation on the committee, I think what it was we were pitching this as keeping it the first week kind of thing, as a regular calendar. So I don't think that particular date was considered, so, and that sounds reasonable to me.
So
I'm allowed to make a motion then? Yeah.
That works for us. I just wanted it in November.
That's our age. Speaker. Yeah, because I'm waiting to speak.
Okay, so we're just wondering if the mover, President Lee Fraser, and the seconder, Greg Stanhope, if you would be open to amending the dates, the alternate dates that you proposed for those in the last week of November, as mentioned.
Correct. That will work.
That works for me too.
So if we go with the amendments out of my region, I have 2 communities that would not be able to attend. We already have booked events and for Louis Riel, and also that's when our AGMs are.
Chair recognizes Susie Hooper.
Susie Hooper, Tri-River Métis. I support the dates, the later dates in November. I think it is better than December and better than the earlier November date. So I would support the dates that Lisa Shepherd proposed.
We're going to recognize Lisa Shepherd again, please.
Yes, thank you. I also feel it necessary to speak for the number of makers that we have out there in our communities, that when we look at the month of December, it becomes virtually impossible to attend anything on those, especially the first 2 weeks of December. And I think that a lot of the makers in our communities also sit in leadership positions. Thank you.
Sorry, just to perfectly clarify what we're looking at, there was a there was consent to change the original dates to different dates in November, but I don't see those presented on the screen. Could you please repeat the dates that you wish so that we can amend them, so that everyone's clear to the dates that we're looking for? And these are to replace the November 4th to 5th dates.
We're looking at replacing it to November 25th, 26th, Saturday and Sunday.
Thank you.
It's 2 days, correct? Yes.
This is my second time. I get 2 times to speak. Come on, boys and girls. Put your hand up.
Sorry, to be absolutely perfectly clear, the dates of November 4th to 5th have been replaced by November 25th to 26th, so I believe that the will of the Assembly is to decide between the December dates and the November dates. Is that correct? Can that be? Maybe just delete the November 4th to 5th dates? There we go. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to be voting on replacing the dates of December 2nd to 3rd, replacing them with November 25th to 26th, 2023. Is there any further discussion? Recognizing Joy Bremner.
And once again, you know, just looking at the calendar, that makes it 3 weeks in a row in November our communities have events on. And that, you know, would reign for each of us. And that would be Remembrance Day, Louis Riel Day, and then this weekend. So I think that's fairly taxing for many communities. So yeah, I would not be able to support it.
Thank you, President Bremner. Okay.
Excuse me, matter with the 1st of December? Like,
Just a reminder, please, to state your name and the community that you're representing.
Well, I just, Peggy Olansky, Region 7. I just wanted to know, like, why? What was the matter with the 1st of December that it was?
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
Because everybody else is busy in November and nothing going on in December.
Yes, I think from the discussion that I've heard is a couple things. Some communities have events in early December for Christmas events. The others, there was makers, individuals I think that are preparing stock and other things for the Christmas season. That weekend is difficult, and I think that was what I understood to be the concerns with the December dates, and of course.
But it sounds like it's the same in November, so.
Exactly, and I think that's why when we'll vote and see what the will of the Assembly is, and I see there's another light there.
Chair recognizes Pixie Wells.
President Pixie Wells, Fraser Valley Métis Association. I sit on the governing council, and I think there was some talk, and I was just trying to remember as I sat here why we chose those dates. And for us, we were trying to stay consistent with so that all of us in our nation would have, okay, every 3 months on the first week of this month, we could schedule that in, this is what's gonna happen. So we're not all over the board, we're not all over the map. So I think from a governance committee, that is why we decided to stick to that flow. And so that's why, so for myself, I don't agree with changing the dates myself, so that's my opinion.
All right, if there's no further discussion, we're going to proceed to a vote on changing those dates to November 25th to 26th. And we're going to go by show of hands. Okay. All right, so if you're in favor of changing the dates to November 25th and 26th, 2023, please raise your hand. Go ahead. Okay, thank you. Opposed? Thank you. Abstentions?
So the tally of the vote was that there were 13 votes in favor, 27 opposed, and 1 abstention.
Okay, so the amendment fails. Yeah, and now we're back to our original resolution, which is dealing with the dates of December 2nd to 3rd, 2023. Yeah, okay, as well as the other suggested dates. Any discussion? Okay, recognizing June Graham.
Yes. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm June Graham, Alberni Clackwood Métis. Just a note, June 3rd and 4th, I just want to recognize that our rendezvous, Vancouver Island rendezvous, is June 10th. So that's the weekend before. So I'm not sure if that's going to conflict for those of us on the island that'll be working to prepare for the rendezvous.
Are you proposing an amendment to the motion, President Graham?
No, I think I was just noting that it's going to be a very busy couple weeks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Chair recognizes Walter Minot, Vice President.
Vice President Minot. Just for clarification, the June and November dates, or December dates, sorry, they're not going to take as much coordination because it's virtual. We can do it from home. So there's not the big gathering, the travel, all that stuff. So it's going to cut a lot of the time out. So I feel that we could probably get those dates cleared. Virtual meetings don't take as much time to organize and get going. So I support the dates that are presented.
Okay, question has been called. All in favor of resolution, are we doing it? Okay. So we're doing a roll call vote. I do apologize. So we'll start on the A to Z.
Just a point. I see when you said it, we're just doing on the way the resolution is written right now, like these dates, June, December, and March.
Correct.
I just want to be clear because I see
June 3rd to
November
4th,
and I was confused.
December 2nd to 3rd, and March 1st to 3rd, 2024. Correct. And it has to be roll call, or? Okay. So we're going to proceed with a roll call vote on this motion, and I think we're going to start A to Z.
Sure. David Allard.
David Allard, Salmon Army Métis Association. I support this resolution. Thank you.
Joy Bremner.
Joy Bremner, Mid-Island Métis Nation, I support it.
Xavier Brewer.
Xavier Brewer, Powell River Métis Association. I support it.
Ron Karan?
Ron Cron, Vernon District Métis. I support the motion.
Nicole Corson?
Nicole Corson, West Kootenai Métis. I support.
Jeff Crozier?
Jeff Crozier, Rocky Mountain Métis Association. I support.
Sean Davern?
Sean Davern, Provincial Youth Chair. I support.
Louis DeJager?
Yes.
Sylvia DeRoche?
Sylvia DeRocher, Prince George Métis Community Association. I support this resolution.
Cheryl Dodman?
Cheryl Dotman, Kelowna Métis Association. I support this resolution. Thanks.
Kate Elliott? Oh. Alicia Fernando?
Aye.
Monica Fisher?
Yes.
Deborah Fisher?
Yes.
Paulette Flamond?
Yes.
Lee Fraser?
Yes.
Rainey Gervais?
Yes.
Dean Gladue?
Yes.
Tony Goulet?
Yes.
June Graham? Patrick Harriet?
Yes.
Susie Hooper?
Yes.
Travis Jobin?
Yes.
Melissa Kelm?
Yes.
Richard Lewis? Tyler Massey? Betty McDonnell? Caitlin Bird?
Yes.
Walter Manel?
Yes.
Peggy Alansky? Lana Olson? Trish Paulson? Brianna Peltier? Lisa Shepard?
Begrudgingly support.
Curtis Belcourt?
But yes.
Christina Sample?
Yes.
Kelly Sears? Mert Servatius?
Yes.
Natasha Smith?
Yes.
Lisa Smith?
Yes.
Greg Stanwood? Joyce Sundin? Marlene Swears? Pixie Wells?
Bingo.
And with that bingo, we have unanimous consent. Thank you very much to the Assembly. Okay, so we do have sort of a hard and fast time limit for us to be concluding our affairs this afternoon so that they can turn the room over. There is going to be a reception this evening at 6:30 in this room. And so we're looking forward to seeing all of you back here for that reception at 6:30. And we can call to adjourn. Okay, okay. Sorry, did you have a question?
Can we just leave our stuff here, or are we gonna clear?
No, please, everyone, please take your things with you. They are going to be turning over the room.
Sorry. Sorry, just a bit of clarification, and I apologize. I just heard this from our event coordinators. We don't need to turn the room over for the welcome reception tonight. We do have to turn over tomorrow for the banquet. Initially, we did thought that we'd have to turn over part of this room, so we don't have to turn it over. The reception will be just outside.
Okay,
So
great.
apologies for the lateness of that. And also, is our event coordinator around here? Because I believe that we had it starting at 6.
Okay.
So my apologies. 6? Is everyone okay with 6?
Okay, so 6 o'clock outside this room, and there'll be light appetizers and things like that, but not a full dinner. Okay? So that concludes our business this afternoon. Thank you so much, everyone. Miigwech.
So what do we? So we'll make sure about Dave. But do we want to?
Hey, Dean, how am I going to do that?